For over 20 years, the Atlantic Mayors Congress has provided a forum for exchanging ideas and a unified voice for municipal leaders in Atlantic Canada. The Summerside edition has a particular focus on addressing housing and homelessness, with sessions engaging community, provincial, and national perspectives.
I'm Alan Gale from Gale for Swinson. What an absolute pleasure it is to be here. Day 2 of the Atlantic Mayors Congress. Some great conversations happening, very collaborative in nature. One thing about Atlantic Canadians, they like to work together. They understand the concept that a rising tide floats all boats in this part of the world. Why don't you introduce yourself, Minister, and tell us what you're up to?
My name's Sean Fraser. I'm the Member of Parliament for Central Nova, just across the strait. And in my spare time, I also get to serve as Canada's Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
What are some of the big and exciting things you're working on right now, Minister, that we as Canadians should be aware of?
Look, there's no shortage of big and exciting things. One of the things that's really exciting for me is we've got buy-in across levels of government, across partisan affiliation, that we need to solve the national housing crisis. We published our plan to do so in April of this year, and we're starting to see some really positive measures take hold, whether it's deals we've struck with communities here in Atlantic Canada, including 7 communities on the island here through the Housing Accelerator Fund, to dramatically speed up the process of permitting and actually zoning differently to get more homes built. We have exciting news coming on public lands that's going to allow us to build more homes on lands owned by governments to help reduce the cost of construction. And actually today we're sharing that we've concluded 2 agreements with PEI and New Brunswick, or rather New Brunswick on the Canada Community Building Fund to help support infrastructure to the tune of several $100 million in those 2 provinces alone over the next 5 years. So lots on the go, but a lot of work ahead as we work to solve the housing crisis in partnership with communities who know their own needs at a local level.
It's not an overnight thing, right? And it's clear that you've got a vision here that, okay, this is a long journey we're on, but let's start getting the pieces together. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle, but you're a big part of that, right? So it's incredible to see the vision that's happening, and it seems to be working well at all levels of government. What do you attribute that to at the moment?
Well, I think everybody's hearing the same thing. Constituents don't live their lives in federal, provincial, and municipal jurisdiction. They live in their community, they live in their province, they live in Canada, but day to day, that's not how they necessarily frame their experience. What we're all hearing, regardless of which community we come from, regardless of which level of government we may represent, is that there are real challenges when it comes to the growth our communities have been experiencing, which delivers untold social and economic benefits, but we need to make sure we're building for that growth. What we're seeing right now is alignment behind a common purpose of solving the housing crisis, and that allows you to make investments that previously wouldn't have been possible. We didn't hear about a huge appetite for municipal zoning reform even 2 years ago. Right, yeah. Lo and behold, the times demanded, and the federal government we want to put our hand up and say, we're going to come to the table not just with notional support, but with money for those communities who demonstrate ambition. What we're seeing right now when it comes to investing in affordable housing is more communities saying we want to support the most vulnerable in our communities, and we're looking for partners at the provincial and federal governments to make sure that we're not doing this alone. We're going to continue to be there as a good partner to address the needs of local communities, including by making investments in affordable housing, including by supporting ambition at a municipal level, and including by investing directly in the infrastructure that makes that growth possible.
You know, we're right here in your backyard, as you so rightly point out. You're not far across the Northumberland Strait. It must be fantastic for you to see this part of the world working so effectively together for the benefit of the people that need it the most. How does that make you feel?
One thing that I am excited by, and look, you get a unique perspective when you come into a portfolio like housing as a guy from a small town, Atlantic Canada. Housing has usually been viewed as a bigger challenge for the nation's biggest cities, but we've embraced growth in Atlantic Canada over the last number of years, and now we realize we need to make sure we're building appropriately for it. Atlantic Canadians, I think by our very nature, want to get along. We like people, we like one another, and it's been refreshing. I came out of a meeting today with the Conservative Premier and Conservative counterparts in PEI. You would never know who was of which party in that conversation sitting around the table. We're in it to solve problems. We recognize there is a common problem that we need to all cooperate to solve, and we understand that our constituents don't much care which level of government, which party we represent. They want service, and they deserve service, and I get the impression that leaders of all levels and of all parties here in Atlantic Canada want to work together to solve those problems. So despite some real challenges, I'm filled with a sense of hope and optimism that we're going to get the job done. done.
Yeah, I love that. Big story of success you can share with us right now?
Yeah, look, some of the measures that we put forward are really starting to work. The biggest success I'd point to in the short term is the housing starts that we are seeing in Atlantic Canada. Our region is up over 100% compared to this point last year, and we're trending in the right direction still. PEI is knocking it out of the park when it comes to housing starts. Over the first quarter of this year, you have to go back to 1978 to find a year, not where they did as much as we've gotten done this year, but as much as half that level of home building. You have to go back decades to see the level of home building anywhere close to what we are right now. What I'm really encouraged by is where we see provincial governments and federal governments mirroring each other's efforts. We've really seen those numbers take off. Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, and PEI in particular here in Atlantic Canada, have all matched us on removing the tax on new apartment construction. And each of those provinces is well above 100% when it comes to the year-over-year numbers since the change was made. Now, New Brunswick's still up about 58%, but if they were to make that additional change like others have, maybe we'd see that number climb even higher. So right now, what I'm seeing is the measures we put in place are starting to take hold, a rapid increase in the pace of home building, which will translate into more homes and better prices over time. So we're moving in the right direction, a long way to go.
Listen, it doesn't all happen without a steady hand on the tiller, so thank you very much for your leadership and your service to our country, and wish you all the very best.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
For over 20 years, the Atlantic Mayors Congress has provided a forum for exchanging ideas and a unified voice for municipal leaders in Atlantic Canada. The Summerside edition has a particular focus on addressing housing and homelessness, with sessions engaging community, provincial, and national perspectives.